When Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote these wonderful Little House books, she was in her 60s. And she was looking back fondly at her life with her family on the prairie.
Little House was told from the perspective of a little girl, and Laura saw the world in a beautiful way.
I love the books. I just whipped through them.
They'd been my mother's favorite books, so we immediately read Little House in the Big Woods together.
They're very accessible. They're enjoyed by children and they're enjoyed by adults.
By the early 1970s, the Little House books of Laura Ingalls Wilder had touched the hearts of young people around the world. The man who would bring her stories to millions more via television was not himself a product of the prairie or even a Westerner. In fact, veteran producer Ed Friendly was a New Yorker who fell in love with the West as a boy.
My father grew up in New York City, but his mother was from a small town in Idaho. And so starting at age 3, he and his sister would take the 4-day train from New York City to Boise, Idaho, and he would spend his summers in Boise, Idaho. And in Boise, his uncle taught him to ride a horse, to go hunting, to go fishing. And he developed a deep and abiding love for the West and for horses and for the stories of the Old West through his childhood experiences.
We have our own window, and we can see the stars. We're supposed to be sleeping when the stars are out.
My father first discovered the Little House books thanks to my sister, Brooke. My sister was sick. She probably was 16 or 17. She was in high school. She was at home. My father went into her bedroom to see how she was feeling before he left for the office and discovered her rereading one of the Little House books. He was surprised because these are children's books, and our mother read those books to Brooke and me when we were growing up. And so she said to him, "Dad, I reread these books every year. I love these books. These are among my favorite books." So he went in to talk to my mother, Natalie Friendly, and she said, "Ed, I've been trying for 8 years to convince you to buy the rights for those books. They would make a wonderful television series." So he borrowed one of my sister's books. He was going on a business trip the next day. He got to the airport. He bought a Time magazine. He hid the book inside the Time magazine because he didn't want people to know he was reading a children's book. As soon as he got off the airplane, he called his attorney and he said, "Please find out if the rights are available. I want to make this into a television series." My father believed so much in this material that he put up his own money to option it and to pay a writer to develop it and write the screenplay.
With a completed teleplay in hand, Ed Friendly went looking for the right director for his pet project.
My father and mother had seen one of the Bonanza episodes, I think it was called The Wish, which Michael Landon had directed. And both my parents were very impressed with the work that Michael Landon did on The Wish. And I think Lauren Green probably had recommended Michael as well. My father already knew Michael because Lauren and he were good friends, and I think he'd met Michael at Lauren's house on several occasions. And he thought Michael Landon would be terrific.
My father was at the pinnacle of his career as a television actor. He was smart enough, however, to hone his craft in other areas.
Michael Landon started Bonanza in 1959 as a 22-year-old kid. By 1962, he'd worked out a deal to write and direct on Bonanza. So it was very clear early that Michael had a hunger to wear all the hats.
My father asked my sister, Brooke, to take the script to Michael Landon. By that afternoon, he received a phone call from Michael saying that not only did he want to direct it, but he also wanted to star in it. And that's how it started.
It was a match made in heaven. Michael Landon took the reins of the series with both hands and guided it into television history. His sensibilities could not have been more right for the project.
My dad was a perfectionist when it came to his work, and so when he took on Little House on the Prairie, he researched it completely. He wanted to know as much as he could about all the characters. In order to make it such a long-term series, he had to add some of his own characters to it as well. And I think if Laura Ingalls Wilder was alive, I think she would have applauded him.
The possibility of creating a show that presented a happy, harmonious family as an example to audiences appealed to Michael Landon for very personal reasons.
The series Little House on the Prairie meant a lot to my father. He grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family. His parents literally would be sitting at the same dinner table, and they would communicate with each other through my father. So, tell your father to do this.
He did not grow up in a happy home. He loved his parents, but there was a lot of heartache along the way. And I think when my dad was able to have a family of his own, he wanted to have a very different life, not only for himself, but for raising children in a loving environment. And I think he wanted to take that into his work.
They said that you couldn't get a decent job, and that all you could do was clean up after the animals, and that you smelled bad.
They were right 2 out of 3. And I do clean the stables. I come home from working all day. I don't exactly smell like a bottle of lemon verbena, now do I?
No.
I think that Little House and his time as Charles Ingalls at the center of this wonderful family was the life Michael wanted to have.
He did not grow up with the experiences that he portrayed on the show, but I know in his heart that that's what he believed in, and that's why it came through so brilliantly, because he wanted to live a life of family, community, love, faith, understanding, tolerance, all of the things that we all strive for all the time.
Laura, you've eaten scarcely a bite.
Not very hungry tonight, Ma. Is Mr. Pike really a maniac?
Who told you that?
Well, Mrs. Olson and Willie and Nellie said he was dangerous.
What a thing to say.
He's just an old man who likes his privacy, that's all.
And has every right to it.
Sure does look scary.
Well, maybe I'll look scary when I get as old as he is.
There's no question that the ideals that he was having us live up to on film were the ideals he carried around in his own heart.
He was giving, he was loving, he was generous. He was probably the most special man I've ever met, other than my husband, of course.
Michael Landon's remarkable sensitivity as a director made itself evident in the consistently high quality of performances in Little House.
On days when we'd be shooting a scene and it would be a very emotional scene and I would have a hard time getting there, he would walk me away from the set. And by the time we got away from everybody, he would kneel down in front of me and he would have already started tearing up. And he would just look at me and he'd say, do you have any idea how much I love you? And then like now, I'd be done. And he'd say, you ready? And he'd walk me back in and it would work.
Pa, we're gonna lose that.
Oh, now easy.
How could Almanzo do this to us? Getting us so deeply in debt.
Hey, now, just a minute. Don't you start blaming Almanzo. I never saw a man work harder than he has. His crop was only a few days from being harvested when that storm hit. It's not his fault. Look, you've had a setback and a bad one, but it's not the end of the world.
In addition to his gifts for creating moving television drama, Michael Landon brought to Little House his own unique sense of humor.
You know, in Little House, it was a dramatic television series, but you can definitely see in a lot of the episodes a lot of the fun-loving side of my dad. But there was also a quirkiness side to him. He was a huge practical joker.
People don't realize, but Michael was a very shy man. He covered it very well, with his great sense of humor, his laugh, his sarcastic ways.
I thought you were all through your homework, Apple.
Well, we're having a Bible quiz in Sunday school.
Oh, good. I'll ask you a few questions, see if you can answer. Where do they mention baseball in the Bible?
Baseball?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they played baseball in the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Very first line, Book of Genesis. In the big inning.
Charles.
One of our favorite practical jokes that he would do is he loved putting things in his mouth. And there was a wonderful script lady who, she would be very focused on the lines, and my dad would bend down and, you know, like he was wanting to go over his lines with her, and she'd look up at him, and he opened his mouth, and a frog literally leaped out of his mouth onto her lap, which of course she screamed.
He's probably one of the funniest people that ever lived, that I will ever know, and could make me fall down laughing daily, and did.
Neither one of us had too good a day, did we?
I really am sorry.
Me too.
You got nothing to be sorry about. It was all my fault.
It was both our faults.
It was more my fault than it was your fault.
Well, it was my fault before it was your fault. I had the fight with Nellie, but that was her fault.
Well, and it's neither one of our faults. It's Nellie's fault.
Yeah, it's Nellie's fault.
He knew how it was going to be edited and what it should look like. So there was no waste motion. We used less film than any show in Hollywood.
Michael understood the camera. He understood lenses. He understood editorial. He knew what he was trying to achieve and understood the process, and he didn't leave it to anybody. I mean, Michael cut the show and the camera.
He was clearly demanding. He demanded that we know our lines, that I know my lines. He demanded that I, be on time, that I hit my marks. But he was very nurturing and warm.
Know what it means when a person gets jealous?
Well, sure I do. I was jealous that time that Almanzo was going with that snippy Christie.
Why do you suppose you were?
Well, I know why. Because I love Almanzo and... Oh, Pa. Do you think that Almanzo could be in love with me?
I don't know for sure.
But what do you think?
I think there's a darn good chance.
The two men who brought the stories of Laura Ingalls Wilder to television shared a love for simple tales of family life on the American frontier. From Ed Friendly, the New York kid who fell in love with the West.
Everything that the West represented resonated with him as it did with Laura Ingalls Wilder in terms of his own childhood.
To Michael Landon, the Hollywood veteran who yearned to heal his own past by showing the world what a happy family could be.
I think my dad was really excited about what this series could do for the public. And I think he knew that the public was hungry for something wholesome, something that really pushed family values in a positive way.
Good night, Pa.
Good night, sweetheart.
He had the touch to make people cry to touch their hearts and to move them.
Where does the time go, Matt?
These days, to be able to do the things that he did and to bring in the audiences that he did and to teach the lessons and give them the stories that they wanted to see for as many years as he did is a tremendous achievement.
They captured what Laura wrote in her books.